To the Middle East next, where Israel's prime minister has told his cabinet that the country is already in a, quote, multi-front war with Iran amid rising tensions. The G7 group of nations has joined calls for restraint in the region following Wednesday's assassination of Hamas political chief Ismael Haniyeh in Tehran. The US says Israel has its ironclad support in the face of any retaliatory attack from Iran. Let's get more now from Sara Bazoobandi. She is an analyst focused on Iran at the German Institute for Global and Area Studies. She joins me now from Hamburg. Sara, good morning. Diplomatic efforts are continuing. We saw Jordan's Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi making a rare visit to Iran. Can diplomacy like that prevent a major Iranian retaliatory strike?
Good morning, and thank you for the invitation. But in order to answer this question, we need to keep in mind the mindset behind the negotiation strategy from the Iranian side. The philosophy of the negotiations in the Iranian side in every aspect of their encounters with outside world, especially with the West, through the nuclear negotiations, through hostage-taking negotiations, and now through the crisis negotiations with Israel, is to show a major big gesture, create a big splash, to put the other side in a corner of especially a media and psychological war, and then to gain so-called brownie points from them, to be able to use that as a negotiation chip, as a bargaining chip. Now, of course, they will have their demands. We don't know what their demands are. There are negotiations ongoing at a very senior level, as your report also mentioned that. Jordanian foreign minister, after nearly 1 decade, was in Tehran for having a very frank and very direct conversations with the authorities in Iran. But would they let that go at this stage? I highly doubt it. Unfortunately, we are entangled in this crisis. That tit for tat will continue. It's every step it seems to become bigger and more serious.
The US is saying that Israel has its, quote, ironclad support. How well is Israel actually prepared for a possible Iranian strike from a military point of view?
Well, Israel has maintained a so-called quantitative military edge in the region with the support of the United States. Israel has had much more advanced military equipment to defend itself. But we also need to keep in mind that the size of the country, the size of the military between the two countries is completely asymmetric. Iranians have trained, equipped, financed several groups across the region that are trying, and all of them are very much in line with Tehran's strategy in hurting and damaging Israel. So it's not exactly the most powerful situation for Israel. But of course, Israel would have the support of the West, and and especially the United States. And we've seen that, as John Kirby mentioned in his remarks that you just showed, that in April that we were in that situation, that the Western coalition had to come and support Israel, and that will happen. So Israel would not be alone in this, but it will not be an easy challenge. It will not be an easy crisis for Israel to deal with, I would imagine. Neither would it be for Iran, to be honest.
Israel's prime minister, meanwhile, is saying that Israel is already in a, quote, multi-front war. I mean, is that really the case, given that full-blown war with Hezbollah has not yet broken out? And who are these comments really for, then?
Yes, Israel and Iran have been in a multi-front war. There was a day in our calendar we should not forget. That was 7th of October. A lot has happened on that day, and the reason that we are in this situation is that that incident, that event. Israeli people were living their lives, and suddenly a group of terrorists attacked them and beheaded their children and raped their women. That is what triggered it, and that was a major event, and Israel could not just sit back and watch and move on. That we all understand. There is also, like I said, the proxy war, proxies that are financed, trained, and equipped by Iranians. There is also the cyber war that if you, for example, look at the regular reports that Microsoft produces, there is a huge investment from Iranian side on cyber attacks, on influence operation, on psychological operation to affect and influence Israeli society and global community as a whole. There is definitely a multi-front war. Iran and Israel have been entangled in this rivalry. But it was always an indirect rivalry. But it seems that we are getting closer to more direct rivalry. And I just want to add one sentence. We keep hearing this on media that Israel is trying to drag the United States into this war. But I don't think that is the case. I think that's a short-sighted conclusion because. Again, going back to 7th of October and what has happened, that was imposed on Israel, and this doesn't mean that justifying atrocities in Gaza and so on and so forth should be accepted. But we need to keep in mind that Israel was attacked and Israel is trying to regain its deterrence in the region.
We'll leave it there for the moment. Thanks so much for joining us today, Sara Bazoobandi from the German Institute for Global and Area Studies. Thanks so much.